Okay, so this is week 5. Monday, semester 2, quarter 3 on ratios. The first question here asks you about use dimension analysis to convert each measurement, then solve the problem. How many kabooms are in 20 rooms? So these are your 2 unit. Kabooms over rooms, right? And it gives you the ratio proportionality right here. And it says there are 300 kabooms in 1 room, okay? So that is going to be 300 kabooms over 1 room. But we want to convert how many kabooms? So question mark for kaboom, or I should say X, right? X equals kabooms over 20 rooms. Do you see that? Do you see that? Room is on the bottom, kaboom is on top, okay? So once we line everything here together, we're going to go ahead, because remember, this is kabooms, this is rooms, right? We're going to cross multiply. So 3 times 2 is 6. There's 1, 2, 3. Zeros equals V times X, or 1 times X is just X. So your answer is, and I can type this up for you. For every 20 rooms, there are 6,000 kabooms. If the ratio proportionality is for every 300 kabooms, there is 1 room. And if you want to make sense of this, Grayson, think about it. Okay, 300 kabooms equals 1 room, right? So obviously kabooms are a lot more. So here it's saying 20 rooms. So 20 rooms, how many kabooms? Well, 300 equals 1. If you have 20, then it's 300 times 20, right? Which is 6, 1, 2, 3, 0. So it checks. Do you see that? Okay, so that's your first question. Read the second question, please.
How many pairings are there in 5.5?
Norse. It's whatever. It's whatever. How many Harrys are there in 5.5 Norse? So here's your ratio. Proportionality. You want to start with a fraction. I'm going to do Harrys on top. I'm going to do Nors on the bottom. Obviously, they first gave you this part right here. There are 25.5 Harrys, right? For 1 Nor. Do you see how I'm color coding them? And it's asking you how many Harrys. So that's the part you need to figure out. We're going to say X equals Harrys. Okay? Harry goes on top, Nors goes on the bottom. So how many Harrys? So X goes on top for Harrys. Are there in 5.5 Nors? So 5.5 goes on the bottom. This right here is your ratio that you use, okay? Use this ratio, right? To help you solve for X. 25.5 Harrys, Harry goes on top, so 25.4 goes on top, 1 Nor goes on the bottom. Okay, so then we're going to cross multiply. 1 times X is X, 5.5 times 25.4. You can always work on this on the side, so 25.4. You always want to put the bigger number on top or the one with the most decimals. That helps me out when I multiply. And then when you multiply this, 25, 27, 12, 20, 27, 12. Add everything together. Do you see how there's 2 decimals to the right? So you go 2 decimals to the left, okay? So X equals 139.70. So that's your answer, right? So then when you go ahead and write your text, this is how many Harrys are there in 5.5 Norse? There are 139.7 Harrys for every 5.5 Norse using the ratio proportionality of 25.4 Harrys for every 1 Nor. Okay, and you can always try to check your answer to see if it actually makes sense. So if I check my answer right here, it's given to you that 25.4 Harrys equals 1 Nor, right? You start out with that. So the question asks for 5.5 Nors. 5.5 Nors would mean, well, 1 Nor equals 25.4 Harrys, then 5.5 will be 25.4 times 5.5. Is that what we did? Yes, it is. And that's what we did. So you want to check that to make sure it makes sense. Okay. All right. Next question. Question C. Go ahead. Okay, so then remember, we always want to figure out what my proportion ratio is. Proportion ratio, proportionality. That is going to be Gallies on top and then geese on the bottom, right? And it says how many Gallies, so Gallies is going to be X for 440 geese, right? This part right here is what you're going to use to solve for X, correct? Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up. Equals how many Gallies? X over 440 geese equals 52 geese. So 52 goes on the bottom. You got to make sure you match them. Do you see how they wrote geese first? They did that to trick you, right? But remember, Gallies goes on the numerator, geese is a denominator. Geese is a denominator, Gallies is a numerator. So make sure they're in the right proper spot. Equals 1 Galli, right? Now let's cross multiply this. When you cross multiply, you should have 52x equals 440, right? Divide, x is now by itself. So x is by itself. Do you see that? So on the side, 440 divided by 52. Well, let's do it on the side, 52. So 52 is similar to 50, right? It's a little bit smaller. So 50 times what gives me close to 440? I know that 50 times 8 is 400. Do you see that? So then let's try what's 52 times 8. That will work. So 416. When you subtract it, you get a 24, right? Put a dot, put a 0. Now 52, again, is close to 50. 50 times what is close to 240? I know 50 times 4 is 200, right? So what's 52 times 4? 208. So I'm going to put 4. I just want to check my work, make sure I didn't make a mistake, because it's very possible I did. Hold on a second. Oh, I did fine. Okay, so then I'm going to put 4, which is 208. 32, put down a 0. 52. Now, 50 times 6 is 300. So we're going to do 52 times 6 is 312. You get a remainder of 8. We can keep going, but I'm not going to because that's going to keep going, okay? Once you have 2 decimals, you're good. You can stop right there. So x equals 8.46. Do you see that? Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and write this up, okay? So you can say it. The question says how many Gallies, okay? You say there are 8.46 Gallies in 440 geese using the ratio of 52 geese equals 1 Galli. Does that make sense? And again, you want to write this so it, like, you could check your work if you have time on the test. So go back to here. 52 geese equals 1 Galli, right? The question is, if they give you 440 geese, how many Gallies, right? Well, I will have to divide this. Do you see that? 440 geese, Gallies. Or hold on a second. I switched this. Hold on, sorry. This is why I need to write it out. 52 geese equals 1 Galli. It's saying if you have 440 geese equals how many Galli, right? And we found 8.46. And that makes sense because 1 equals 52. Do you see that? So then 8.4, so 8 times 5 will be around 400, and that looks about right. Make sense? Okay. Let's go on to the next one. D, go ahead. Read it for me, please.
How many stands are in 18 schools?
Thams over schools. This is your ratio proportionality, okay? So how many thams, so X is thams, are there in 18 schools? So X goes on top, 18 goes on the bottom. 25 schools equals 1 tham. So 25 schools goes on the bottom, 1 tham goes on top, right? Now you just need to cross multiply. So 25x equals 18. When you divide it, x equals 18 over 25, right? Yes? So then 18 is not enough. Do you see that? So you put a dot and you put a 0, okay? 25 times what gives me 18? Well, 25, if I round it, it could be 30. 30 times 6 is 180. So let's see, 25 times 6 is going to give me 150. But I could probably try a little bit bigger than that. 20, because that's still too small. Let's try 7. That's 35, 14, 175. So in the choice 7, 175, 5, put down another 0. 25 times 2 is 50. So my answer is x equals 0.72, right? So then when we go ahead and do this, you can say, go back to the question. It says how many thams? There are 0.72 thams in 16 schools, right? And you could just say that, that's it. So just answer the question. If you look at the question right here, Grayson, 32 thams in 16 schools. Doesn't that look very similar to how many thams are there in 8? I mean, you're just answering the question, right? Okay. Number 4, go ahead and read. Number 4.
Yeah.
Read your question for number 4. Okay, how many seconds did it take to count to 20? Okay, are you ready? I'm gonna count already. I'm gonna time you. Hold on a second. Let me go to here. We will go to online timer. You ready? Are you ready? Count to 20, go. Okay, you're not getting it. Just count 1, 2, 3, 4, as fast as you can, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. How long did it take me? Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Okay. You could write that's the first part, right? At the same rate, how many seconds would it take for you to count to 1,000,000? Okay, so what are the two parts of the ratio? Time in seconds, right? Counting numbers. So my ratio is time in seconds and the number that I counted. It took me 6.5 seconds to count to 20, right? So then this question breaks it down. How many seconds will it take you to count to 1,000,000? That's your first part. That's part A. Do you see that? How many hours is that? That's part B. Do you see that? How many days? This is part C. Okay, we can answer that. So first things first. A. So part A, how long would it take you to count to 1,000,000? Counting is on the bottom, right? 1,000,000 has 3 zeros after the 1. Do you see that? X goes on top. Let's cross multiply. 6.5 times this is 6, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? 20 times that is 20x. Okay, divided x equals 6, 5, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 divided by 20. And you get to cancel one of the zeros like that. Okay, then with the divide, 6, 5, 0, 0, 0, 0, 4 zeros now. Divide by 2. 2 times 3 is 6. You drop down the 5, right? 2 times 2 is 4. You get a 1, drop down a 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Drop down 0. There's 1, 2, 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. So x equals 325,000, right? So how many seconds is that? It's going to take you 325,000 seconds to count to 1,000,000. Do you see that? Yes? No? Yes? So for A, how long is it going to count to 1,000,000? It will take me 325,000 seconds to count to 1,000,000. That's your first part, right? Second part, how many days? Or I'm sorry, B, how many hours? So with this question, if it's going to take you this many seconds, I gotta convert that to hours, the number of hours. Do you agree with that? Yes? Wei-san? Wei-san? Okay. 60 seconds equals 1 minute. Do you agree with that? 60 minutes equals 1 hour. Okay? So how you do this is you do 325,000, and this is second, right? So I know 60 seconds equals a minute. So if I divide this by 60, that will give me the number of minutes. Do you see that? So then when I do that, 325 divided by 60, it's gonna give me 5,416.67 minutes, right? This minutes needs to go into number of hours. I know there are 60 minutes in an hour. So if I have this many minutes, I just divide it by 60, which then gives me 90.27 or 90.28 hours. Okay. So going back to this question for B. How many hours is that? That is 92 or 90.27 or 28 hours. C, how many days? How many hours are there in a day? How many hours are in a day, Grayson? Do you know how many hours are in a day? Grayson? $24 hours in a day. If this is how many hours I have, I divide it by 24 hours. That will give me the number of days. You're gonna have to divide this on your own because I'm not dividing this for you because you should know how to divide. So that's gonna give you 3.76 days. So for part C, where it says how many days, that's gonna be 3 days. And I think that's all the question that there is. Yep, it is. Okay, so what I want you to do is you're gonna have to show the work on here. So for part A, you show the work. Okay, part A, what we did is how many seconds we seconds to count to 1,000,000. What you did is you did 6. Actually, I showed this one to you. I already showed this to you, so you don't have to do it. This right here is A. Do you see that right here? Okay, but what you do need to show, eraser's not working. Wow, okay, fine. Is part B, which is how many seconds would it take for, or how many hours? So what that means is you have to go ahead and divide. Three, 2, 5,000 divided by 6D. Okay, this is from seconds to minutes. Okay, and then when you get the answer right there, you get 6 or 5,416.67. This is in minutes. You gotta divide by 60 because you're going from minutes to hours. You gotta show the work with this, okay, for B. Then for C, we're gonna do days, okay? So you should have 90.28 divided by 24. And the reason we're doing 24 is because you're converting from hours to days, okay? So you gotta show part B and part C. Do you see that? Okay. And that concludes it.